This video was produced by the State Historical Records Advisory Board with support from the National Historical Publications and Records Commission. For more information on the board and its activities, please visit the link in the description of this video. This tutorial explains the basic steps involved in arranging and describing archival collections. These steps include intellectually organizing an archival collection, physically processing materials, and creating a finding aid. Arrangement is the process of organizing archival materials to protect their context and to achieve physical or intellectual control over the materials. Description is the process of creating a set of data representing an archival resource or one of its components. When we undertake steps to arrange and describe an archival collection, we refer to this work as processing a collection. The purpose of archival arrangement is to organize the collection in such a way as to make it usable by researchers. If the creator of the materials established their own sensible organizational system for their records, it is preferable to retain this system. We refer to this as original order. Retaining a collection's original order can provide valuable contextual information to researchers. Frequently, collections do not come to a repository with a usable original order. In these cases, it is preferable to rearrange the records into a logical order for the benefit of the researcher. To begin processing an archival collection, start by conducting an initial survey of the entire collection. Open each box and briefly scan its contents to get a sense of the collection as a whole. Take note of any obvious conservation issues or formats that will require special care, such as audiovisual materials, volumes, etc. Once you have a sense of the collection as a whole, you can begin to rearrange the materials into a logical order. A good arrangement groups together like materials, so researchers do not have to look in several places for closely related things. Archival collections are arranged hierarchically. This means that materials should be grouped according to how they logically belong together, usually by subject, chronology, or format. We refer to these groupings of materials as series, and further subdivisions within each may be established at the subseries, folder, or item level. For example, if you're working with a collection of family papers for the Smith family, you might arrange the papers into series, according to which family member created them, further grouping them into subseries based on format or subject, like so. If you're working with a collection of organizational records for the League of Women Voters, you might arrange the records into series based on format, further grouping them into subseries based on chronology or another logical grouping, like so. It's important to note that archival arrangement is largely subjective. Each collection is unique, and each one has to be evaluated on its own characteristics. The primary objective should be to arrange the material in the most user-friendly manner possible, so that the researcher can quickly find needed information. As you are physically rearranging materials, you may also want to consider rehousing materials into conservation-grade enclosures, such as acid-free folders and boxes. Conducting basic conservation treatments, such as removing paper clips and staples or flattening folded pages, sleeving photographs, relabeling folders, or discarding duplicative or out-of-scope materials. Some materials require special housing and conservation treatments, such as free photographs, oversized materials, audiovisual recordings, born digital materials, and artifacts. There are numerous resources available on the internet that explain how to care for these sorts of items. Consider establishing a standard of physical arrangement for all collections in your repository. For example, minimally, all collections should be rehoused into acid-free folders and described at the series level. When your collection has been fully arranged and rehoused, you are ready to describe it. Most archival description takes the form of a finding aid. A finding aid is a document that summarizes the collection, its creator, and its historical context for the researcher. Researchers use finding aids to determine whether collections are useful for their research. There are numerous content management systems out there that will help you create and organize finding aids. Many of these require subscription fees. Many are open source, but require substantial technical knowledge and dedicated IT staff to maintain. If your repository does not have the resources available to invest in a content management system, you can create finding aids using a standard word processor, or make them available on your repository's website. A finding aid consists of two components: a narrative description section and a container list. The first section should minimally include the following information: the collection's title and creator, the collection's call number, accession number, or other unique identifier, the date range of the collection, the language of the materials, the size of the collection, known as the extent, a brief historical note about the collection's creator, a summary of the collection's contents, also known as a scope and content note. In addition to the above information, you may also want to include a statement explaining the collection's arrangement, any conditions governing physical access or use of the collection, the donor's name and the date the materials were received by the repository, a preferred citation for the materials in the collection, the name of the person who processed the collection, a list of related collections in the repository, and a list of subject headings pertinent to the collection. It is important to be consistent in how you're describing the various collections in your repository. Researchers will often consult several collections in a single visit, so having standardized formatting for names, dates, and common terms will make their work easier. The most widely used descriptive standard for archivists is Describing Archives, a content standard, or DAX, a PDF version of which is freely available on the Society of American Archivists website. You may wish to draft a custom processing manual for your repository based on this standard. The last step in creating a finding aid is to enter a container list. This is a hierarchical list of contents of the collection, including box and folder numbers. Sometimes it is most prudent to organize container lists numerically by box number, and sometimes it makes more sense to organize the list hierarchically based on series and subseries, depending on the collection you're working with. Container lists are usually included at the end of the finding aid, underneath the descriptive notes. Processing archival collections thoroughly and efficiently will encourage the use of your repository's materials by the research community. An effective arrangement and description program is the cornerstone of a successful repository, and the finding aids you produce will aid your staff in promoting the use of your collections. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to check the other videos in this series.